The video ain't really the issue. The video being posted up on social media is the issue. If someone would have sent her that video privately, she and I would have had one conversation about it, then it would have been over.
They heard me say it. I said that. If I was on there, I said that.
Turn around, please. You did not.
Shekinah, you stopped them and I said the same. You asked me, do you think I'm happier that you asked me the question and I answered it? So why would you sit there and say that?
Because I am happy.
But why would you sit there and say that I ain't say that?
Because you didn't.
I think she's happy. Yes, I did.
It wasn't loud and clear.
Tell me. Yeah? Tell me what's going on right there. What's going on?
Atlanta blew up overnight with a scandal so wild it could have been ripped straight out of a Hollywood script. But this wasn't fiction. This was real life, unfiltered, and messy as ever. Clifford T.I. Harris, once crowned the King of the South, suddenly found himself trapped in a firestorm that threatened to destroy everything he'd ever built. It all kicked off when leaked files, private chats, medical reports, and even sketchy audio clips started flooding social media like gas hitting open flames. And then came the jaw-dropper, rumors claiming that Shekinah Anderson was pregnant, and the alleged father wasn't just anyone. Nope, the whispers were pointing straight at T.Y. himself. In seconds, the internet lost its mind. Hashtags like hashtag Shekinah pregnant, hashtag DNA for T.I., and hashtag justice for Tiny exploded across Twitter and TikTok, especially from fans who had supported Tiny through years of messy headlines. But this time, it wasn't just gossip, it was betrayal, and the public wanted answers, fast. The first real blow landed when Tiny herself stepped into the spotlight, tears streaming, voice trembling, but with that fire burning in her eyes. Cameras flashed as she said, "I want a DNA test. I deserve the truth. My family deserves the truth." That single sentence flipped the whole situation from rumor to reality. Suddenly, this wasn't fan talk. It was a wife demanding proof. The footage of Tiny breaking down, her hands shaking, clutching tissues as she sobbed in front of the world, became a symbol of heartbreak everywhere. Every woman who'd ever been betrayed saw herself in that moment. Tiny wasn't just a singer or reality star anymore. She became the voice of every wife who'd ever been blindsided by lies. The internet couldn't look away, not because people wanted to see her hurt, but because it was too real. And then came the receipts that made it impossible to brush this off as gossip. Shekinah's alleged medical report hit the net, and the detail inside, brutal.
It just put a lot of back and forth, a lot more strain on just what we had going on. Afraid of that. And it did put some strain on our relationship. If you see, and we was about to divorce here and there and breaking up here and there.
The estimated conception date lined up perfectly with T.I.'s stay at a fancy Atlanta hotel. And that single sentence confirmed what the whispers had been screaming all along. The industry froze in shock. This wasn't rumor anymore. This was a paper trail with receipts to back it up. Reporters gasped, influencers rushed to drop their takes, and fans mourned like they were watching the fall of a hip-hop dynasty. Tiny, already hanging by a thread, reportedly fainted during a heated family confrontation, while T.Y.'s entire Instagram went dark. No posts, no captions, no stories, just silence. But that silence? It was louder than any denial. The world took it as a confession without a single word said. And just when everyone thought the situation couldn't get any uglier, a whistleblower popped up with alleged screenshots of Shekinah messaging a friend, saying if that DNA test ever went public, T.I. would lose everything. His wife, his career, his empire, gone. That leak turned the scandal into a full-blown ticking time bomb. Social media exploded with debates. Some people called Shekinah a manipulator who tore apart a home for clout, while others painted her as a victim caught in a dangerous love triangle she never meant to be part of. But no matter which side people chose, one thing was clear. The Harris empire was collapsing in real time, and there was no saving it. Then came the grand showdown. The courtroom turned into a stage for one of the most public betrayals in hip-hop history. Paparazzi packed the courthouse steps, protesters waved "Justice for Tiny" signs, and fans gathered like they were about to watch a championship fight. Inside, the air was thick with tension. Nobody even dared to whisper. Tiny sat beside her lawyers, tissues clenched tight, her face pale, but her eyes burning with determination. Shekinah entered next, surrounded by security, her expression a mix of guilt and defiance. And finally, Ty walked in, The man once seen as untouchable, now hollowed out, waiting for judgment. When the judge read the case title, Tiny versus Clifford Harris and Shekinah Anderson, DNA and Betrayal, the courtroom erupted in gasps. This wasn't just gossip anymore. It was betrayal written into legal history. Then came the breaking point. The audio file hit the speakers, and the moment it played, the room went dead silent. The grainy clip, allegedly T.E.'s voice, whispered words so shocking that the entire gallery gasped in disbelief. "Don't worry, Shekinah. If this comes out, I'll handle Tiny. Just trust me." Those chilling words echoed through the courtroom, and then silence. Tiny froze, her whole body trembling like she'd been hit by lightning. Slowly, she rose to her feet, her voice cracking through the tension. "You destroyed me. You destroyed our family." Seconds later, she collapsed into her daughter's arms, sobbing uncontrollably as cameras flashed non-stop, capturing an image that spread around the world within minutes. There she was, the tragic queen of a broken empire, betrayed by the very man she helped build up. Outside, Atlanta turned into chaos. Protesters shouted, "Justice for Tiny," and "DNA doesn't lie," while others turned on Shekinah, chanting, "Snake." Police had to hold back furious crowds as the streets boiled over with emotion. News anchors called it the greatest betrayal in hip-hop history, and TikTok flooded with crying fans sharing their reactions. Memes roasted T.I. as a fraud, while others hailed Tiny as a heroine rising from the ashes. Shekinah was caught in the middle, painted by some as a manipulative mastermind and by others as a woman trapped in a mess she couldn't escape. But the real shocker came when the DNA results finally dropped. The courtroom went dead silent as the clerk's hands shook opening the envelope. His voice trembled when he read the results. Clifford Harris, known publicly as T.I., is the biological father of Shekinah Anderson's child with 99.9% certainty. The room exploded. Gasps turned into chaos. Tiny screamed, collapsing to the floor, shouting, "Why, Clifford? Why would you do this to me? To us?" Her daughter sobbed beside her while Shekinah broke down, yelling, "I never wanted this. He promised me everything." The whole place spun into madness. Tiny snatched a water bottle and hurled it across the room, screaming, "You destroyed my life, my children's home. Don't you dare act like a victim." The judge's gavel slammed again and again, but it was no use. The courtroom had turned into pure pandemonium. Reporters trampled over each other, trying to catch every word, every tear, every scream. And when the verdict hit Twitter, it blew up instantly. Hashtags like #DiaBombshell, #TinyBroken, and #CancelT. I skyrocketed to the top of trending lists. Within hours, every network was running wall-to-wall coverage, and late-night hosts turned the scandal into punchlines. But just when people thought it couldn't get any uglier, an explosive clip surfaced. "Shh, Tiny ain't going nowhere. She can cry, she can sue, but she'll always need me. Shekinah, man, she's just another piece of the puzzle." That's what the leaked clip allegedly caught T.I. bragging about, and the internet went crazy. Overnight, he was labeled a narcissist, a manipulator, a king who mocked the very queen that helped him build his throne. The so-called empire he once ruled started bleeding out right before everyone's eyes. His label wasted no time dropping a cold, calculated statement. "We are reviewing our relationship with Clifford Harris following recent revelations." Just like that, the dominoes started to fall. Sponsorships pulled out, major deals vanished, and longtime friends suddenly went silent. Meanwhile, Tiny transformed into the tragic heroine of the entire saga. Her public statement hit harder than any lyric or verse she'd ever sung. She wrote, "I never thought I'd see the day my family name would be dragged through this, but I will rise. I will fight, and I will make sure my children know the truth about the man who broke our home." Her words shattered hearts everywhere. That raw honesty earned her millions of supporters who saw her as a symbol of strength after betrayal. Fans camped outside her home holding signs reading "Queen Tiny" and "Rise from the Ashes," turning her heartbreak into a movement. But while Tiny's world began to heal, Shekinah's life completely fell apart. Her inbox flooded with death threats. Protesters showed up at her house, and every post she made online was flooded with venom. In a tearful Instagram live, she sobbed, "I didn't destroy that family. He did. He told me he loved me. He told me he'd leave Tiny. And now I'm the one paying the price. I can't even walk outside without being called a monster." But her tears didn't soften the internet's rage. The world branded her the other woman, the homewrecker, the reason the Harris family crumbled. Whether she was truly a victim or a willing accomplice didn't even matter anymore. Public opinion had already made up its mind. Then came the final strike, the divorce filing. Tiny officially moved to end her marriage, demanding full custody of her kids, half of T.Y.'s empire, and damages for emotional trauma. The leaked court documents describe T.I.'s behavior as repeated betrayal, public humiliation, and irreparable emotional damage. Paparazzi caught her leaving the courthouse in dark sunglasses, hiding swollen eyes, holding her children close. That photo hit every front page in America within hours. Headlines screamed, "Tiny ends it all. DNA bombshell destroys Harris family." By nightfall, the Harris empire lay in ruins. T.I. sat alone in his mansion, surrounded by silence and threats, while Tiny rose from the wreckage as the queen who survived it all. But the nightmare wasn't over, not even close. The scandal just kept unraveling deeper, and nobody knew where it would end. Rumors exploded that T.I. had lost over $30 million in contracts. Whispers claimed Tiny was already working on a tell-all memoir to spill every dirty secret, every hidden betrayal. At the same time, gossip swirled that Shekinah was packing up to leave Atlanta for good. The dynasty that once stood on music, fame, and family values had crumbled into nothing but broken dreams and bitterness, and the world couldn't look away. It was like the most scandalous reality show ever broadcast. When the chaos finally started to settle, one thing was clear. This wasn't just another celebrity meltdown. This was a total implosion of a legacy. T.I., once celebrated as the king of the South, now sat alone in that massive mansion, surrounded by silence instead of loyalty. The same streets that once praised his grind were now whispering about his downfall. Friends stopped calling. Industry partners quietly backed off. Even his closest allies faded into the background, pretending not to know him. The empire he built from the ground up was cracked wide open. What was left was nothing but betrayal, scandal, and shame. Meanwhile, Tiny's story flipped into something powerful: resilience. She wasn't just the rapper's wife anymore. She became the symbol of survival. The tragic queen who the world now rooted for. Everywhere she went, cameras followed. But this time, it wasn't mockery. It was respect. Fans cried for her, held signs calling her a warrior, and treated her like royalty. Her heartbreak had turned into power, and everyone wanted to see her rise again. But for Shekinah, the story took a dark turn. She became one of the most hated names in the game. Protesters chanted outside her home day and night, accusing her of tearing apart a family. Her DMs overflowed with hate, death threats, and cruel messages. It got so bad she could barely step outside. In another emotional live stream, she cried, "He told me he loved me. He told me he'd leave Tiny, and now I'm the one taking all the hate." But the public didn't buy it. To most people, she wasn't a victim. She was the spark that burned down the house. Whether that was fair or not didn't even matter anymore. Her reputation was scorched for life. Industry insiders whispered that she was getting ready to vanish from Atlanta entirely, maybe even change her name to escape the storm chasing her everywhere she went. In one haunting confession, she admitted, "I can't walk down the street without someone spitting at me or calling me a monster." And just like that, her story faded from the spotlight, leaving behind nothing but wreckage, scandal, and the ashes of a fallen empire. Tiny moved like a chess master, every step precise, every move calculated. The divorce papers were just her opening play. She demanded half of T.I.'s empire, full custody of her kids, and justice for the years she said were stolen from her. But she wasn't stopping there. Word spread fast that Tiny was gearing up to drop a tell-all memoir that would shake the entire industry to its core. Rumors claimed the book wouldn't just expose T.I.'s betrayal with Shekinah. It would uncover years of hidden lies, secret affairs, and quiet humiliation that had been swept under the rug. Fans were buzzing, desperate to hear her side. Talk shows, podcasts, and media outlets lined up, begging for interviews. And every time Tiny spoke, her words became headlines. She was no longer just the broken wife. She was the comeback story everyone wanted to see. The tragic heroine turned victor, reclaiming her voice after years of being silenced. The more T.I. tried to stay quiet, the louder her story grew, and it worked. Tiny's narrative began to eclipse his completely, painting her as the true survivor, while T.I. sank deeper into the shadow of his own mistakes. Meanwhile, T.I. faced one of the hardest downfalls the industry had ever seen. Reports claimed he lost over $30 million in contracts, endorsements, and business deals. His label went cold, sponsors dropped him, and his streaming numbers crashed as fans turned their backs. He was branded a narcissist, a manipulator, and the man who single-handedly destroyed his own home and legacy. That infamous leaked clip of him bragging, "Tiny ain't going nowhere," kept resurfacing like a curse, replayed on every platform as proof of his arrogance. Every time he tried to disappear, another rumor, another leak, another revelation dragged him right back into the spotlight. His silence, once seen as control, now looked like guilt. Alone in his massive mansion, the same place where his empire was built, T.I. found himself surrounded by nothing but echoes and regret. His phone buzzed with threats, messages, and reminders of everything he'd lost. The so-called King of the South had become a ghost, a man trapped inside the ruins of the kingdom he burned down with his own hands. He once was the King of the South, but now that crown was nothing more than a memory. What made this whole story even more haunting was that it went beyond a messy breakup. It became a full-blown cultural moment. People debated on every talk show, calling it the biggest betrayal in hip-hop history. Fans battled online over one question: should Tiny forgive him or leave for good? But those divorce papers made her answer crystal clear. Even other celebrities couldn't stay quiet. Some stood with Tiny, praising her strength, while others kept their distance, afraid to get caught in the storm. The Harris family, once adored for their music, their reality show, and their picture-perfect love story, had become a cautionary tale. A reminder that no matter how glamorous a life looks on the outside, it all falls apart when it's built on lies. Tiny's tears became a symbol for every woman who's ever been betrayed. Shekinah's fall reminded the world that being the other woman never ends with glory. And Tia's collapse, it proved that ego and betrayal can shatter even the mightiest legacy. By the end of it all, Atlanta itself felt changed. The same city that once celebrated T1 as royalty now whispered his name like a warning. His crown was gone, his throne abandoned, and in its place stood the ruins of a dynasty. Tiny, though, rose from those ashes. A tragic queen turned legend, her pain now her power. Shekinah disappeared into the shadows, paying the price for her choices, while T.I. stayed trapped in silence, his empire reduced to cold memories of what used to be. The DNA results hadn't just revealed a father. They had ripped open an entire truth that destroyed everything in its path. The Harris legacy didn't just fall, it exploded. And as the camera zoomed in on Tiny's tear-streaked face one last time, the message was painfully clear. This wasn't just another celebrity scandal, it was betrayal in its purest form. A heartbreak so deep, no one involved would ever truly recover. So now, after watching this whole saga unfold, the question that lingers is haunting. Can anything ever rise from this rubble, or is the Harris dynasty gone for good? Because sometimes the truth doesn't just set you free, it burns everything around you until there's nothing left to save. Don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe to stay locked in. Because trust me, this story is only getting darker.